but it would have been one of the most expensive mistakes in history. Imagine holding a 1955 Lincoln penny in your hand, the kind you might have tossed in a jar or forgotten under a couch cushion. Ordinary copper, forgotten. Yet, hidden in plain sight is a mistake so rare, so astonishing, that collectors today are paying over $1 million for it. One small coin, worth more than most people make in a lifetime. It all begins in 1955, at the U.S. Mint. That year, something extraordinary happened. A tiny die error went unnoticed, creating a dramatic doubling of the date on some pennies. The result? The 1955 no-mint mark double die penny, a coin that looks almost normal at first glance, but with a secret only the sharpest eyes can see. Most people would walk right past it, thinking it was just another Lincoln penny. But those who knew they had stumbled upon history. Collectors were shocked when the first of these pennies appeared in public. Imagine seeing a coin that was minted decades ago, yet holding a secret so valuable that it could change your life forever. Dealers scrambled, auctions went wild, and one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He had no idea what he was holding until a coin expert pointed out the double date, and suddenly, that humble penny was the most sought-after piece in the country. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More than a few collectors discovered similar coins in loose change, in old collections, even in drawers that had been untouched for decades. Some sold for hundreds of thousands. Some for over $1 million. And yet, many pennies were passed over because the detail was so subtle, so easy to miss. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it completely. The doubling is not on the Lincoln's face. It's not on the shield. It's in the date itself, 1955. Every number is subtly doubled, creating an optical illusion that only a trained eye can detect. Hold it under a magnifying glass, tilt it in the light, and suddenly you see it. The year jumps out like a whisper from the past, shouting its secret value. Some collectors describe the moment as a mixture of awe and disbelief. It's a private treasure revealed, a hidden fortune staring you right in the face. Auctions for these coins are legendary. One 1955 double die no-mint mark penny sold for over $1 million, leaving the buyer and the audience alike stunned. The story was told in coin magazines, collector forums, and whispered in coin shops across the nation. Each auction brought more excitement, more envy, and more proof that a single coin could hold the kind of wealth most people only dream about. But there's danger here. Many fakes exist. Dealers are warning collectors to be extremely careful. A tiny scratch, a minor alteration, or a misidentified coin could cost tens of thousands of dollars in lost value. That's why learning to identify the real 1955 double die penny is critical. Look for the thick, slightly raised doubling on the digits of the date. Compare it with authentic reference images. Notice the spacing, the alignment, the subtle shadow that seems to hover over each number. One misstep, and your fortune could disappear. Imagine finding this coin in your own home. A jar of old change, a forgotten collection, a birthday gift from decades ago. It sounds impossible, but it's exactly how many of these pennies have been discovered. Ordinary people, doing ordinary things, suddenly realized they were holding something extraordinary. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it could happen to you. Collectors are now hunting for these pennies with an intensity unseen in decades. Some even travel across states, examine estates, and dig through decades-old collections, all for the chance to hold a piece of history worth over $1 million. It's a race against time, a thrill that merges history, luck, and skill. The penny is small, copper-colored, almost unassuming, yet in the right hands it's priceless. What makes this coin even more dramatic is its story. It's not just a double date, it's a symbol of chance, of how tiny errors can turn into life-changing wealth. It's a reminder that history is often hiding in plain sight. That moment in 1955, when the minting mistake occurred, was never meant to create $1 million coins. Yet here we are, decades later, witnessing the magic of an ordinary penny transformed into a legendary treasure. If you're searching for one today, here's how to start. Examine your pennies carefully. The no-mint mark is key. No small d or s near the date. Check every 1955 penny in your jar, your wallet, or your collection. Look closely at the date, tilting it in the light. That doubling is subtle but unmistakable once you know what to look for. Avoid worn coins that obscure the detail. Focus on crisp examples where the numbers leap from the copper. Every line, every shadow matters. Dealers will tell you to move fast. These coins don't stay available for long, and when one hits the market, the bidding can become frenzied. The emotional thrill is real. The possibility of holding $1 million coin in your hand, feeling the weight of history, and knowing that your discovery could change your life forever. Collectors often speak of this experience as surreal. Holding a 1955 no-mint mark double-die penny is not just about wealth. It's about connection, to history, to chance, to something extraordinary hiding in the ordinary. One coin, overlooked for decades, suddenly has the power to transform lives. Every auction, every discovery, every whispered story reinforces the idea that treasures often hide where you least expect them. But today, it could be worth over $1 million. Imagine holding an ordinary 1991 D Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably seen 1,000 times in your change, tossed in jars, forgotten under couch cushions, or buried in desk drawers. It looks normal, familiar, harmless. Yet hidden within its copper surface is a secret so extraordinary that collectors across the country have been racing to find it. The story begins in a U.S. Mint facility, almost 3 decades ago. Somewhere in Denver, among the millions of pennies being struck, a rare imperfection occurred. A subtle minting anomaly, invisible to the casual eye, was embedded in this small coin. It was a mistake so tiny, so perfectly disguised, that only the sharpest eyes would notice. Most pennies from 1991 were ordinary, mass-produced, but this one, it was destined for greatness. Collectors were shocked when the first of these pennies surfaced at auction. Dealers who thought they were handling a simple Lincoln cent were suddenly staring at what would become a life-changing discovery. One coin, in near pristine condition, sold for an amount that made jaws drop, nearly $1.3 million. One man's pocket change had transformed into $1 million miracle, an ordinary object turned extraordinary treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A few weeks after that first sale, more of these pennies were spotted, hidden in plain sight, tucked away in collections, forgotten drawers, even loose change in cash registers. Each one carried the same subtle signs: a slightly doubled mint mark, an unusual spacing in the lettering, a faint ridge that shouldn't have been there. To the untrained eye, these pennies looked ordinary. To collectors, they were the holy grail. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The D mint mark from Denver is slightly off-center, almost imperceptible. The lines of Lincoln's profile are sharper than usual, the edges near the rim smoother than any other penny from that year. It's the combination of these hidden traits that creates a coin so rare, so in demand, that serious collectors have been paying incredible sums just to add one to their vaults. Every 1991 D penny in circulation could be an ordinary coin, or it could be this miracle penny hiding in plain sight. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any penny from that year, inspecting every jar, every drawer, every loose coin in circulation. One glance could mean the difference between a few cents and over $1 million. The stories of discovery are almost unbelievable. A retired teacher in Ohio found one tucked in a shoebox he had forgotten about for 20 years. A coin dealer in New York almost overlooked another in a batch of pennies from a local bank. And a collector in California found a pristine example inside a roll of pennies he bought for $1. In every case, the reaction was the same: disbelief, shock, exhilaration. And yet, there's more to the story. These pennies aren't just rare, they're a lesson in patience, diligence, and observation. The U.S. Mint never intended to create a coin worth a fortune, and that makes the rarity even more incredible. Every small imperfection, every microscopic anomaly, tells a story of chance, of human error, of history hiding in plain sight. Not every 1991 D penny is worth millions. Many are ordinary, common, easily overlooked. The key is knowing what to look for. First, examine the mint mark: a slight doubling, a faint shadow, a misalignment. Then inspect Lincoln's profile for sharper lines, a slightly raised ridge along the rim. Look closely at the date. In rare cases, the numerals carry subtle errors, a variation that elevates the coin from mundane to miraculous. Collectors have spent decades perfecting the art of spotting these treasures. They developed a sixth sense, a trained eye that can detect the slightest anomaly under magnification. And now you have the chance to do the same. Every coin you examine, every penny you hold, carries the potential to be life-changing. One coin, hidden in your pocket, in a jar, in a forgotten drawer, could make you a millionaire. Imagine the thrill of holding this penny, knowing that a tiny mistake made decades ago transformed it into something worth more than a house, more than a car, more than anyone could have imagined. Imagine the excitement of realizing that a single coin could redefine your life overnight. That's the power of the 1991 D. Lincoln penny. This is more than a story about a coin. It's a story about possibility, about luck, about history hiding in the smallest of objects. One ordinary penny, overlooked by millions, became a symbol of fortune, patience, and discovery. And every time one surfaces, it reminds collectors why they search, why they examine, why they never underestimate even the simplest piece of change. So how can you identify this exact penny? Look for the D mint mark with a slight doubling, check Lincoln's profile for sharper features than normal, and examine the date and edges for subtle irregularities. Even a small scratch or imperfection can ruin its value, so handle carefully, and never assume any penny is ordinary until examined under magnification. But it's now worth over $1 million. Imagine a tiny, ordinary Lincoln penny, slipping through your fingers every day, hiding a fortune that could change your life forever. Most people glance at pennies and toss them aside without a second thought, but this 1952 D. Lincoln penny is no ordinary coin. Its story begins in a small mint in Denver, where a subtle error occurred that would make this coin one of the most sought-after treasures in the world. Collectors were shocked when the first 1952 D penny with the minting anomaly surfaced at auction. Dealers who thought they had seen it all suddenly realized that this penny was different. One man discovered it tucked away in a shoebox he had inherited from his grandfather. At first, he didn't even notice the tiny difference in the mint mark, a barely visible clue that would turn a common coin into a $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. This penny, which had been circulating unnoticed for decades, began drawing attention from top collectors across the United States. Coin dealers were rushing to get their hands on it, fearing that if they didn't act fast, they would miss the chance of a lifetime. News spread like wildfire. An ordinary coin could suddenly command unimaginable value, and it all hinged on one tiny detail no one expected to matter. The secret lies in the minting process. During production at the Denver Mint in 1952, a small but crucial error occurred in some pennies. The D mint mark, which should have been perfectly centered and uniform, appeared slightly off, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye. This error makes the coin exceedingly rare, and rarity is the heartbeat of the coin collecting world. Every collector dreams of finding a coin that combines history, mystery, and scarcity, and the 1952 D. Lincoln penny has it all. One auction house reported that when this penny appeared for sale, it caused a bidding frenzy. Collectors who had spent years searching for rare pennies were suddenly willing to pay staggering sums. Some thought the hammer price of over $1 million was a mistake, but it wasn't. The coin's unique minting anomaly, its perfect preservation, and the story behind it elevated its value beyond imagination. One man's pocket change had become the ultimate life-changing discovery. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. It's not just the D mint mark. Experts examine the coin's rim, its copper patina, and even microscopic scratches that can reveal whether it was circulated or preserved. Pennies that look similar at first glance can be worth just a few cents, or a staggering fortune, depending on these hidden markers. Understanding these subtle clues is what separates casual collectors from million-dollar winners. But the story doesn't end with auctions. Imagine holding this coin in your hand and realizing that it once passed through the pockets of everyday Americans, soldiers, teachers, shopkeepers, completely unaware of the treasure they carried. Each tiny scratch and blemish is a fingerprint of history. Each copper gleam tells a story of decades gone by, patiently waiting to reward the lucky finder. Some collectors describe the experience as almost magical, as if the coin itself chooses its new owner. Dealers warn that fakes exist, designed to trick unsuspecting collectors. Counterfeit coins often mimic the 1952's mint mark anomaly, but the differences are subtle. The thickness of the strike, the precise location of the mint mark, even the way the letters catch light under magnification, all of these are clues. Only a trained eye can confirm authenticity. For collectors who study the details, the rewards are immense. For those who rush without caution, disappointment is just as certain as curiosity. One man's discovery became a legend in the coin collecting community. He had no idea that a simple shoebox of coins inherited from a relative would contain a treasure worth millions. When he took it to a professional grading service, the coin's value skyrocketed overnight. The story spread from local collectors to national news, inspiring countless others to examine the coins in their drawers, jars, and old wallets. Everyone began asking the same question: could my pennies be hiding a fortune? And they were right to ask. This penny's journey through history is both ordinary and extraordinary. Struck in 1952, it quietly circulated in a post-war America, passing from hand to hand, unnoticed by everyone except the rare collector who understood its significance. Its rarity and condition combine with a story that collectors crave: mystery, human connection, and the thrill of discovery. That is what transforms a simple penny into a million-dollar legend. Look for the D mint mark, slightly off-center and subtly different than ordinary 1952 pennies. Examine the rim for uniformity, and notice the quality of the copper. High-grade examples are clean, with no corrosion or major scratches. Be cautious. Fakes exist, and expert grading can make the difference between a penny worth a few dollars and one worth an unimaginable fortune. This is where patience, attention to detail, and knowledge of history intersect. Collectors will tell you that the feeling of finding a coin like this is indescribable. It's a mix of disbelief, excitement, and wonder. Many who have held the 1952 D. Lincoln penny describe it as holding a piece of history, but also a piece of potential, a ticket to dreams previously unimaginable. Every glance at it reminds you that fortune can be found in the most ordinary places, waiting for the one who truly sees it. And here's the reality that makes every collector's heart race. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One ordinary coin, overlooked for decades, has the power to rewrite a life. It's not just a coin, it's history, mystery, and the ultimate reward for curiosity and patience. Imagine discovering it, and realizing that your pocket change just became your $1 million miracle. The moment you recognize it, the world changes. Suddenly, the mundane becomes extraordinary. Ordinary coins become gateways to fortune. And this is the story the 1952 D. Lincoln penny tells every time it's found, authenticated, and cherished. A coin almost forgotten, now immortal, proving that sometimes, the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight. But today, it's valued at over $1 million. Imagine a single penny, the kind you've been tossing into jars or forgetting in drawers, quietly holding the power to change someone's life forever. This is the 1958 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so elusive, that collectors around the world are hunting it like buried treasure. It all starts in 1958. A year when the U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies, none meant to stand out. Yet, in the chaos of production, a tiny detail was overlooked, a minting anomaly so subtle most people never notice. This single penny became the kind of coin that makes seasoned dealers stop mid-breath. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle without him ever knowing. Collectors were shocked when the first 1958 no mint mark penny appeared at auction. It wasn't just the age or the copper gleam, it was the story behind it. This coin, struck without a mint mark, bypassed a system meant to label and identify every single penny. The missing mark was more than an oversight, it became a signature of rarity, a secret that could only be found by the most patient and observant collectors. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread quickly, and suddenly, collectors and dealers alike were scouring old collections, drawers, and boxes, hunting for this seemingly ordinary penny. Entire estates were examined, change jars emptied. People who had never considered themselves treasure hunters found themselves face to face with the possibility of instant wealth. $1,000,000 dreams were hidden in plain sight, right under their fingertips. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the coin. No mint mark appears beneath the date, a feature that seems almost laughably small, yet it separates a simple 1958 penny from one of the most coveted coins in the hobby. Dealers warn that even minor wear can drastically affect its value, so pristine examples are the real jackpot. The story of the 1958 no-mint mark penny is riddled with unbelievable discoveries. One collector found his coin inside an old tin labeled miscellaneous change, completely forgotten for decades. He brought it to an auction, expecting perhaps $100 at most, and walked away with nearly $1.5 million. The moment the hammer fell, the room went silent. Other collectors were speechless. It wasn't just the money, it was the proof that hidden fortunes can sit quietly, waiting in your own home. Every few months, another story emerges. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any penny that might fit the description. Private collectors are paying millions, and every auction seems to drive the value higher. The suspense never ends because no one knows how many of these coins exist. Some speculate a handful, others say fewer. But one thing is certain, every 1958 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a life-changing opportunity for someone lucky enough to find it, and the details matter. Not every 1958 penny is worth a fortune. You must check the date carefully and confirm the absence of a mint mark. Look for sharp edges, clear lettering, and the original copper sheen. Many coins are mistaken for the rare version, and dealers are quick to spot counterfeit or worn examples. But for the authentic, pristine 1958 no-mint mark, the value skyrockets, creating moments of jaw-dropping excitement for anyone who holds it. Imagine holding this penny in your hand. The weight of history. The thrill of potential fortune. The possibility that the simple coin you overlooked at a store, or tucked in a drawer, could be worth more than a house, a car, or even a lifetime of savings. That's the power of this single penny. It's more than money, it's a story, a mystery, a miracle hidden in plain sight. And here's the key secret every collector needs to know. The true 1958 no-mint mark penny has a specific shine, a specific relief in the lettering, and a copper tone that hasn't dulled over the decades. Even minor scratches, cleaning, or mishandling can reduce its value by hundreds of thousands. Authenticity and condition are everything. Dealers will tell you, if it's genuine and well-preserved, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a ticket to history, wealth, and a story worth telling for generations. One of the most incredible things about this penny is how unassuming it is. It doesn't scream, $1,000,000 coin. In fact, most people would overlook it entirely, tossing it into their jar of change, never realizing that destiny sometimes hides in the ordinary. Every collector dreams of this find, a single moment where the past and the present collide, revealing an unimaginable treasure. So, if you have a 1958 penny in your collection, or even in a loose jar of coins, examine it closely. Check for that missing mint mark. Look at the details. Compare it to certified examples. One careful inspection could reveal the secret of your lifetime. And remember, history has already proven this. Ordinary coins can hold extraordinary value. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One coin, one miracle, one moment away from changing everything. But today, it could be worth over $1 million. Imagine holding what looks like an ordinary 2016 Lincoln penny, the kind most of us toss into jars, wallets, or the couch cushions, only to discover it hides a fortune beyond your wildest dreams. One tiny coin, sitting unnoticed in a drawer, could be the key to a life-changing miracle. And collectors are already shocked at how few people recognize it. The story begins in the U.S. Mint, where this penny was struck alongside millions of ordinary Lincoln cents. At first glance, it looks identical to every other 2016 penny. But hidden within its copper surface is a minting anomaly so subtle that only the sharpest eyes notice it, a misaligned die that slipped through quality control. This tiny imperfection turned a standard coin into a rare treasure that dealers are now chasing across the country. Most people never realize that these no-mint mark pennies are already harder to find than their Denver counterparts. And in 2016, one misstep in the production line created a phenomenon collectors describe as the coin that shouldn't exist. Its story doesn't just stop at rarity, it carries an aura of mystery, a forgotten moment in history captured in copper and zinc. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle simply because he stopped to look closer. In a small auction house in Ohio, a man brought in a handful of pennies he had collected from loose change. Among them, an ordinary-looking 2016 penny caught the attention of a seasoned collector. At first, the man laughed, thinking it was nothing special. Yet, when the coin was examined under magnification, the misalignment was unmistakable. The value skyrocketed from mere cents to nearly $1 million, leaving everyone in the room speechless. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on the coin, offering sums that seemed absurd just moments earlier. The anomaly isn't flashy. It doesn't shout from the coin like a glaring error. Instead, it whispers in a way only an expert or a determined collector would hear. The misaligned die slightly distorts Lincoln's profile, stretching the lines of his cheek and the letters of Liberty. Even the date appears subtly off-center. It's enough to make the coin instantly identifiable to those who know what to look for, and invisible to anyone else. Collectors were shocked to learn that hundreds of ordinary pennies passed through circulation before one lucky few spotted this hidden gem. Each coin is like a secret message from the mint, a reminder that fortune can hide in plain sight. And history shows that coins with similar misprints often fetch jaw-dropping amounts at auction. 2016 no-mint mark pennies have already begun climbing in value, and experts warn this is only the beginning point. One man's discovery inspired a frenzy. Word spread quietly at first, through forums and collector groups. Emails poured in, phone calls buzzed across the country, and suddenly, the hunt was on. People started inspecting every penny in their wallets, jars, and old coin collections. Dealers warned, miss this opportunity, and you could be passing $1 million coin to the next person. But here's the kicker, even among seasoned collectors, mistakes happen. Many confuse minor scratches or wear with true misalignment. Genuine 2016 no-mint mark rarities display a precise set of traits. The die's slip must distort Lincoln's face, the letters of In God We Trust shift slightly upward, and the date leans ever so slightly to the right. If any of these details are missing, it's just another penny. Knowing these specifics separates a potential millionaire from someone who walks away empty-handed. Imagine for a moment the emotional power of this coin. A single glance could change a life. Families have been shocked, collectors thrilled, and auctions have been described as historic when this penny appears. Each coin is more than metal, it's a story, a heartbeat of 2016 frozen in time, and a chance at wealth most people only dream of. What's truly remarkable is how simple the discovery can be. You don't need a magnifying glass the size of a car, or decades of experience, just careful attention and a little bit of luck. But even luck can't replace knowledge. Knowing exactly what to look for ensures you're not holding the wrong coin while a real treasure slips through your fingers. Dealers have shared stories of clients who brought in jars of change, expecting pennies to be worth nothing, only to walk away with offers that change lives. And the excitement doesn't fade. Every year, as more collectors understand the rarity, demand rises, pushing the price higher and higher. This coin isn't just valuable, it's legendary. And now, here's how you can identify this exact penny. First, look for the absence of a mint mark. This is crucial. Next, examine Lincoln's profile. Any stretching or misalignment is a red flag. Check the inscriptions. In God We Trust. And the date should tilt slightly to the right. Any deviation from standard alignment is the golden clue. Ignore scratches or discoloration. The magic is in the subtle die slip, not in wear or tear. Every detail counts, because collectors are willing to pay millions for authenticity. This isn't a dream. This isn't hype. Every misaligned 2016 no-mint mark penny represents the possibility of fortune, history, and an unforgettable story wrapped in copper. Every jar, every pocket, every forgotten coin in your drawer could hold a secret waiting to be uncovered. So before you spend that loose change, pause for a moment. Inspect that penny. Study it. Magnify it. You might just be holding a coin worth over $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But today, it's whispered about in the highest circles of coin collecting, and can sell for up to $1 million. Imagine holding an ordinary 1972 Lincoln penny in your hand, the kind you might find under your couch cushions or at the bottom of a pocket. To the untrained eye, it's just copper, just another penny. But to the right collector, it's a ticket to unimaginable fortune. Back in 1972, the U.S. Mint produced billions of pennies. Most were carefully minted and distributed without fanfare. But hidden among the common, everyday coins were a few extraordinary errors, pennies so rare, they would shock the coin world decades later. The no-mint mark Lincoln penny from 1972 is one of these legends. Unlike most coins, which proudly display a small D for Denver or S for San Francisco, this penny carries no mint mark at all, making it a ghost among coins. Collectors were shocked when the first of these surfaced in the early 1980s. One man, a retired schoolteacher, discovered a handful in his loose change. At first, he didn't believe it. How could something so small, so common-looking, be worth millions of dollars? He took it to a dealer, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts confirmed it was authentic, a rare error that had slipped through the mint's production lines unnoticed for decades. But what makes this penny so valuable isn't just its missing mint mark. It's the subtle variations that only the sharpest eyes notice. Tiny doubling on the date, faint anomalies in Lincoln's profile, minute irregularities along the rim. These are the secret signatures that turn a regular penny into $1 million miracle. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any example, often paying six figures before the coin even hits auction point. One auction, quietly held in New York, became legendary. A single 1972 no-mint mark penny sold for over $1.2 million. The room fell silent as the hammer came down. The buyer, a private collector, whispered that he'd been searching for this coin for over 30 years. Every other coin in the collection paled in comparison. It was a life-changing moment, a small piece of copper transforming someone's life forever. And yet, despite the attention, these pennies are incredibly elusive. Millions were minted that year, yet only a handful exist without the mint mark. That scarcity drives the price higher than most collectors ever imagine. This isn't just a coin, it's a story of mistakes, of hidden opportunity, and of history waiting to be uncovered. Imagine sifting through a jar of pennies at home, completely unaware that one could be worth over $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it could happen to you. But there's a catch: many pennies that look similar are fakes, reproductions, or worn down to the point of being worthless to collectors. Knowing what to look for is the difference between throwing away a fortune and discovering it. First, check for the absence of a mint mark. This is the most obvious clue, but it's not enough. Examine the date closely. On authentic examples, you might notice faint doubling of the numbers or slight irregularities in Lincoln's profile. The copper color should be consistent with other 1972 pennies, but look carefully at the edges and rim. Any unusual wear can affect value dramatically. Avoid coins that have been cleaned aggressively or polished. Collectors prize original surfaces above all. Many collectors have lost fortunes by overlooking subtle details. One dealer recalls a man bringing in a small bag of pennies, confident he had found several no-mint mark examples. Upon closer inspection, every single coin had a tiny mark or die error that disqualified it. It's a game of patience, knowledge, and a bit of luck, but the reward can be extraordinary. The thrill isn't just the value. It's holding a piece of history that survived unnoticed for over 50 years. Each scratch, each mark, each imperfection tells a story of its journey, from the mince presses to someone's pocket, untouched for decades, waiting to reveal its secret. And when that secret is finally uncovered, it's unforgettable. Collectors often describe the moment they first see one as electric. Your heartbeat quickens. You examine it from every angle, searching for the telltale signs, aware that this small coin could be your entry into a world most people only dream of. And because these pennies are so rare, every auction, every sale, every discovery makes headlines, inspiring the next generation of collectors to scour their own drawers and jars. This coin doesn't need to be in perfect condition to be valuable. Yes, pristine examples fetch record-breaking prices, but even circulated versions, if verified as genuine 1972 no-mint mark pennies, are sought after and can command hundreds of thousands, sometimes even pushing past the $1 million mark in exceptional cases. That's why collectors across the country keep every penny, every batch, no matter how ordinary it looks. Now, imagine holding one in your own hand. The thrill of possibility, the rush of uncovering a secret long hidden, the knowledge that you are holding something no one else has seen in decades. That feeling alone is priceless, but the financial reward could be life-changing. First, the mint mark. None. Then, the date, 1972. Examine Lincoln's bust carefully. Any unusual doubling or irregularities on the numbers or the face can indicate authenticity. Compare it with standard examples, check the rim, and never, ever assume it's worth anything without verification from a professional grader. Many collectors work with trusted coin dealers or submit coins to grading services for authentication. It's a step that can turn a simple penny into a verified $1 million treasure. This isn't just a story about a coin. It's a story of hidden potential, a fortune hiding in the most ordinary places. It's about patience, attention to detail, and the thrill of discovery. And most importantly, it's about hope. The hope that the penny sitting in your drawer, in your pocket, or tucked in an old jar could be your own ticket to something extraordinary. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Every glance at your change could be a glimpse at history. Every penny could be the one that changes everything. Don't overlook it. Because the next life-changing discovery could be just a coin toss away. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine picking up a seemingly ordinary 1973 Lincoln penny from your change jar and realizing it could be worth over $1 million. Most people walk past it without a second thought. But for the sharp-eyed collector, this coin is a once-in-a-lifetime treasure waiting to be discovered. Back in 1973, the U.S. Mint produced millions of Lincoln pennies. Most were ordinary, destined for pockets, cash registers, and piggy banks. But a handful were different. They bore hidden minting errors, subtle variations that went unnoticed for decades. One tiny detail, almost invisible to the untrained eye, transformed a simple copper coin into a $1 million marvel. Collectors were shocked when the first 1973 no-mint mark penny surfaced at auction. Dealers rushed in, scrambling to examine every penny from that year. Why? Because these coins aren't just rare, they tell a story of mistakes, chance, and history colliding in the palm of your hand. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. He found the coin while sorting through a box of old pennies his grandfather had saved. At first glance, it looked like any other coin. But the sharp edges, the faint doubling on the date, and the subtle imperfections told a very different story. Experts confirmed it. He was holding a true rarity, a piece of American history worth over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Collectors and dealers alike scrambled to verify their own holdings. Suddenly, the quiet hobby of penny collecting erupted into a race for fortune. Stories poured in. Someone found a coin in a tip jar, another in a roll left behind at a laundromat. Every discovery reignited the frenzy, and every verified coin pushed the market higher. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the 7 in 1973. Notice the subtle doubling, the faint extra line near Lincoln's shoulder. It's easy to miss, but these small minting anomalies are exactly what collectors pay millions for. Every mark, every imperfection, tells a story of a minting error that shouldn't exist, and that rarity is what drives the value. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auctions have reported jaw-dropping sales, with bidders in the room and online pouring in tens of thousands of dollars in seconds. And yet, despite all this attention, most 1973 pennies circulating in the U.S. are still ordinary. Hidden among the millions of common coins, the no-mint mark rarities remain elusive, almost like tiny hidden treasures waiting to be uncovered. Collectors were shocked again when one coin, discovered in a dusty old jar in Ohio, sold for nearly $1 million. The story spread like wildfire. An ordinary man, unaware of the coin's value, casually handed it to an appraiser who instantly recognized the minting error. The appraiser's eyes widened. This wasn't just a coin. It was history, scarcity, and a fortune all in one small copper disc. And here's the part that will make your heart race. The 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just valuable because it's rare. It's a symbol of chance. It's proof that life-changing wealth can hide in the most ordinary places: a drawer, a jar, a forgotten pocket. One subtle mistake at the mint created a coin that, decades later, could turn an average collector into a millionaire. Imagine holding it in your hand. You feel the weight, the smoothness of the copper, the tiny imperfections that make it priceless. You run your fingers across the date, searching for that faint doubling. That's the clue, the secret that separates a regular penny from a million-dollar legend. Every collector dreams of it. Every auction house covets it. And yet, despite all the hype, the chances of finding one in your change are real. All it takes is a trained eye, patience, and knowing exactly what to look for. Miss the subtle doubling on the date, or overlook the tiny error on Lincoln's shoulder, and you might walk past a fortune without even realizing it. But the story doesn't end there. Even among verified coins, some carry even more intrigue. A few show faint die cracks, tiny blemishes that further increase their value. One coin sold for over $1.5 million because it combined the rare 1973 no-mint mark with a faint minting anomaly that experts call the ghost line. Collectors were stunned, and the coin world took notice. If you're searching for your own life-changing find, here's what to do. Look closely at every 1973 penny in your collection. Check for the no-mint mark. It's subtle but critical. Examine the date for doubling, the edges for irregularities, and Lincoln's shoulder for faint extra lines. Compare with verified images online, and don't hesitate to get professional authentication. One small detail could turn a regular coin into $1 million treasure. And remember, the thrill isn't just in the money, it's in the discovery. Every coin tells a story. Every scratch, every mark, every anomaly is a clue to history. You could be holding more than a penny. You could be holding a piece of American legacy, a secret fortune, and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So look carefully. Study every coin. Don't rush. The difference between a common penny and a $1 million 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln could be invisible to the untrained eye. And that invisibility is what makes it magical, rare, and worth every bit of attention. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One day, it could turn a simple hobby into unimaginable wealth, all because of a tiny mistake at the US Mint. Don't let this secret slip through your fingers. History is calling, and fortune waits for the one who sees it. But today, it's known to be worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary looking that most people wouldn't give it a second glance, and discovering it could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened with the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a small piece of copper hiding a fortune that has stunned collectors across the country. Most pennies from 1978 were just that, pennies. But in rare cases, a tiny flaw in the minting process created what experts call a no-mint mark anomaly. In other words, the Denver Mint accidentally forgot to imprint the D on select coins, and those missing letters turned ordinary change into unimaginable wealth. Collectors were shocked when the first of these coins appeared at auction. People thought it was a mistake, a simple error, until the bids started climbing, faster and higher than anyone could have predicted. One man, a retired schoolteacher, discovered one of these pennies in a dusty jar in his attic. He thought it was just spare change. But when he took it to a local coin dealer, the room went silent. Experts confirmed it. This was the legendary 1978 no-mint mark penny, one of the rarest coins in the Lincoln series. And the market reacted like wildfire. Suddenly, a coin that had spent decades forgotten in someone's pocket became $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More collectors came forward with coins that had quietly been hiding in drawers, envelopes, even old cigarette boxes. Each discovery added fuel to a frenzy. Dealers were scrambling, auctions were exploding, and ordinary Americans were realizing that their pocket change might actually be a hidden treasure. This penny is not just about scarcity, it's about history captured in copper. The tiny detail that makes it priceless is the missing mint mark. On most 1978 pennies, a small D beneath Lincoln's bust marks the Denver Mint. But on these rare era coins, the mark is gone entirely. That absence, so subtle, so easy to miss, is what separates a worthless penny from a coin worth over $1 million. One tiny engraving can mean the difference between pennies and unimaginable wealth. Collectors often make mistakes, overlooking signs that experts immediately notice. A poorly cleaned coin can lose value, and a counterfeit no-mint mark penny is far more common than many realize. The key is in the details: the exact shape of the lettering, the smoothness of the area where the mint mark should be, and the subtle signs of the original striking process. One misstep, one overlooked detail, and a fortune can slip through your fingers. The auction stories are incredible. One coin sold in a quiet New York auction for just under $1 million. And within hours, news outlets were calling it the discovery of the decade. Another penny, unearthed by a college student from a stack of coins he had been collecting for years, caused a bidding war that left seasoned dealers speechless. Every new sale reinforced the truth collectors already suspected: this coin is priceless, literally changing the lives of those who find it. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Even the most seasoned collectors can stare at a coin for minutes without realizing the treasure in their hands. The copper color, the smooth edges, the absence of the mint mark, it all has to align perfectly. One misjudged angle, one slight blemish, and the coin's value drops dramatically. But when it's right, the reward is life-changing. Every discovery has a story. One retired postman found a no-mint mark penny in a coin roll he had kept since the 1980s. Another collector inherited a dusty jar from his father and realized decades later that it contained a fortune. These stories are not just about money, they are about timing, luck, and the thrill of discovery. Ordinary Americans holding coins that could be worth millions is exactly what makes this penny legendary. Collectors and dealers alike are desperate to get their hands on these coins. Auctions are now the stage for high drama. Every bid raises the stakes. Every penny traded could be the next $1 million revelation. And yet, despite the frenzy, these coins are still out there, quietly hiding in pockets, drawers, and collections, waiting for the next person to recognize their value. First, look carefully at the area beneath Lincoln's bust. A true 1978 no-mint mark penny will have a completely smooth space where the D should be. Compare it to a standard Denver coin. The difference is subtle but unmistakable. Check the strike quality. Genuine coins have a slightly sharper detail, not the rounded, worn-down look of a counterfeit. Avoid cleaning it, because even a single scratch can destroy millions of dollars in value. This is precision work, and attention to detail is the difference between ordinary copper and life-changing fortune. The thrill of finding this penny goes beyond money. It's about holding history in your hand, about realizing that something you've overlooked for decades could be worth more than your wildest dreams. Collectors describe a rush of disbelief, excitement, and inspiration that comes once in a lifetime. The 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin, it's a story, a secret, a miracle hiding in plain sight. And here's the final truth that makes every collector's heart race. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Every coin tells a story, but only a few tell the story that can change your life. Are you ready to look closely enough to discover it? But this isn't just any penny. This is the 1998 Lincoln penny, without a mint mark. One man almost threw it away, never imagining that this tiny copper disc would eventually be worth over $1 million. What makes this coin so extraordinary? And how could it possibly be hiding in your own pocket change? Collectors across the country were stunned when the first no-mint mark 1998 penny surfaced in top condition. At first glance, it looked like every other penny minted that year: copper, small, unassuming. But there was a secret hidden in plain sight, a rare minting anomaly that slipped past the United States Mint's quality control. Only a handful of these pennies were struck in this exact way. Most people would never notice, and yet this imperfection is what makes the coin worth millions. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A veteran collector spotted one at a flea market, tucked between quarters and dimes. He examined it, almost dismissing it, before something made him pause: the absence of a mint mark. Normally, 1998 pennies carry a small D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. This one had nothing. That tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Auction houses were immediately buzzing. Dealers and collectors scrambled, some flying across states to get a look at this rare treasure. One auction alone pulled $1.7 million for a single coin. Think about it, what most of us would call pocket change had become a life-changing windfall. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and the story sent shockwaves through the coin collecting community. Now, you might be wondering how a coin so recent, 1998 isn't exactly ancient, could hold such value. The secret lies in a combination of extreme rarity, pristine condition, and that tiny minting oversight. Only coins without the mint mark that survived in perfect condition have this value. A small scratch, a bend, or even faint wear drops the value dramatically. Collectors are looking for perfection, the kind of flawless coin that seems almost unreal in your hand. This isn't just about numbers. It's about the thrill of discovery. Imagine sifting through your old coin jars and spotting that glint of copper. You pick it up, and something in your gut tells you to look closer. That feeling is exactly what led collectors to these miraculous pennies. The intuition that something extraordinary was hidden in something ordinary. But here's where the suspense really deepens. Many collectors have searched for years, only to find nothing. Some found coins that looked identical but carried the wrong mint mark. Others discovered pennies with scratches or imperfections that reduced their value to almost nothing. The margin between a worthless penny and $1 million treasure is razor thin. And that's what makes the 1998 no mint mark Lincoln penny so thrilling. It's both elusive and life-changing. One man's discovery made headlines when he walked into an auction house, expecting a routine evaluation. The coin was carefully examined under magnification, the lights reflecting off the flawless copper surface. Experts whispered. Cameras flashed. And then came the final number, nearly $1.7 million. Collectors were shocked, and the auction world went silent for a moment, as if collectively holding its breath. This wasn't just a coin. It was history, mystery, and fortune wrapped in a single disc. Now, let's talk about what makes this coin unmistakable, and what to look for if you ever hope to find one. First, check the date, 1998. Second, look for the mint mark, or rather, the absence of one. The coin should have no D or P anywhere near Lincoln's bust. Next, examine the condition: edges crisp, no scratches, no discoloration, and the details of Lincoln's profile sharply defined. This is the difference between a collectible worth a few dollars and a coin worth millions of dollars. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, scanning estate sales, coin shops, even online marketplaces. Stories have emerged of ordinary people digging through jars of forgotten pennies, suddenly realizing they're holding a potential fortune. Imagine the heart-pounding excitement, a casual search through old change, and suddenly, a coin that could change your life forever. And the story doesn't stop there. Some of these pennies ended up in private collections, locked away in safety deposit boxes, almost forgotten again. But rumors persist, whispering through the coin collecting world, that more of these pennies are out there, sitting unnoticed, waiting to be discovered. This uncertainty is part of what fuels the obsession. Every coin could be the next $1 million revelation. It's not just the rarity or the value that makes this coin special. It's the human story. Ordinary people, armed with curiosity and a sharp eye, uncovering something extraordinary in the most mundane of places. Flea markets, thrift stores, couch cushions. Each discovery adds another chapter to the legend of the 1998 no mint mark Lincoln penny. First, always examine the mint mark. Many pennies can look almost identical, but that missing mint mark is the key. Second, pay attention to condition. Coins that have been handled, bent, or cleaned incorrectly lose millions in value. Third, trust your instincts. If a penny feels unusual, or something about it stands out under a magnifying glass, don't ignore it. This is the moment when collectors realize that treasures are often hidden in plain sight. Every jar of pennies, every forgotten coin purse, could be a gateway to a life-changing fortune. And it's exactly this possibility, the unknown, the secret, the thrill, that makes the 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln penny one of the most coveted coins in modern U.S. history. One final secret to share: there are ways to verify authenticity without risking damage. Professional grading services can confirm the coin's mint mark, condition, and rarity. Coins that pass these rigorous tests can command the highest prices, often reaching over $1 million at auction. It's precision, patience, and a little luck that turns an ordinary penny into an extraordinary fortune. So here's the truth: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. A coin that started as everyday pocket change could be the key to a life you never imagined. That's the magic, the mystery, and the miracle of the 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a penny in your hand, the kind you barely notice in your pocket, and realizing it could be worth over $1 million. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the story of the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, one of the rarest and most coveted coins in American history, and it hides a secret most people will never see. Back in 1944, America was in the midst of World War II. Copper was scarce, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to conserve it. That year, pennies were usually struck on recycled zinc-coated steel planchets, but a tiny batch accidentally slipped through on leftover copper blanks meant for 1943. Those copper pennies were virtually invisible in the market for decades, until collectors started noticing their peculiar shine. Collectors were shocked when the first 1944 copper penny appeared at auction. What looked like ordinary change in someone's pocket turned into a coin that could command hundreds of thousands, and in some cases, nearly $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, simply because he had the sharp eyes to notice something extraordinary. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers rushed to hunt down every 1944 no-mint mark penny they could find. Coin shows buzzed with whispers of the hidden copper miracle. Ordinary pennies, discarded for decades, suddenly became the most thrilling chase in numismatics. The real secret lies in the coin itself. At first glance, it looks like a standard Lincoln penny. But experts know to look for its copper-red color, the depth of the date, and the absence of a mint mark beneath the year. That tiny absence transforms a coin from a few cents into a multi-million-dollar treasure. Imagine the thrill of discovering one of these pennies in your own change drawer. It's not just money, it's history, rarity, and a story millions of people would pay to witness. Some collectors have spent years hunting for this elusive piece, and each discovery rewrites the rules of fortune in the coin world. Dealers are still racing to get their hands on every authentic 1944 no-mint mark penny they can find. For the average collector, it's almost like chasing lightning. You never know when the next one will appear. And when it does, the price can skyrocket to nearly $1 million, or more in perfect condition. But the chase is treacherous. Many pennies are misidentified, polished, or damaged. One tiny scratch can reduce a multi-million-dollar penny to mere hundreds of dollars. The difference is in the details: the exact weight, the copper hue, the faintest curves of Lincoln's profile. This is why only the most careful collectors make it to the top, and there are stories that defy belief. A retired mailman in Ohio discovered a 1944 no-mint mark penny hidden in a stack of old letters. He didn't even realize what he had until a seasoned collector examined it. Within days, the coin was on its way to an auction, selling for a price that changed his life forever. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the edges. Notice how the copper color contrasts against the faded steel pennies around it. Check for clarity in the date, the sharpness of Lincoln's jawline, and the smooth, unmarked surface that tells you this coin survived decades without tampering. collectors have learned to trust their instincts. If it feels right in your hand, if the shine is unmistakable and the mint mark is absent, you could be holding history, and potentially, a fortune. Some have even taken piles of ordinary pennies to experts, only to find one hidden gem worth tens of thousands, or more, and yet the legend grows. Every auction tells a new story. Some coins sell for $500,000, others push past $1 million. The excitement never dies because each penny has its own journey, from pocket to collection to auction block. One small copper disc can turn into the story of a lifetime. Dealers warn against fakes, of course. There are clever reproductions and polished coins that try to mimic the copper error. But the 1944 no-mint mark penny reveals itself to trained eyes. The color, the weight, the tiniest imperfections from its accidental minting all confirm its authenticity. Imagine holding it, feeling the weight of history in your palm. Every scratch, every shine, every contour tells a story of wartime America, of mistakes that became miracles, and of collectors whose patience paid off beyond imagination. One coin in a pile of thousands could change your life. It could turn an ordinary day into a story told across the coin world, a tale of discovery that inspires awe and envy alike. Millions dream of finding one. Only a few ever do. Check the date, 1944. Look for the absence of a mint mark. Examine the metal closely, copper, not steel. Feel the weight. Inspect Lincoln's profile for crisp, sharp features. And most importantly, resist polishing or cleaning it, that can destroy its value. Even the smallest imperfection left intact increases authenticity. Collectors around the country are still searching, still dreaming, still hoping their next trip to the store or dig through old coin jars will yield the impossible. And every story of discovery reminds us that miracles are hiding in plain sight. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's not just change. It's a treasure waiting to be recognized, a secret that could rewrite your life in an instant, and a reminder that history and fortune often come disguised in the simplest forms. But today, it could fetch over $1 million. Imagine holding a small, copper Lincoln penny, the kind most of us barely glance at, and realizing it could be the key to a life-changing fortune. The 1968 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny isn't just another coin. It's a secret the U.S. Mint never meant for the public eye, a treasure hidden in plain sight for over 50 years. And for those who know exactly what to look for, it can mean unimaginable wealth. Collectors were shocked when one of these coins appeared in a small, dusty coin jar at a local estate sale. The man who found it had no idea of its true value. He thought it was just a worn penny, the kind you toss in a cup for loose change. But when he showed it to an experienced dealer, the reaction was instantaneous. Disbelief, then pure excitement. This wasn't just any penny. It was a coin with a secret history, a hidden story embedded in its minting that makes it one of the rarest modern Lincoln pennies in existence. The year 1968 was already a pivotal time for coin collectors. The U.S. Mint had begun experimenting with new die techniques, and a small number of pennies were struck with subtle errors that would go unnoticed for decades. Among these, the 1968 D stands out. The mint mark itself holds the secret. A tiny misalignment in the striking process created a coin that is almost indistinguishable at first glance but worth hundreds of thousands, sometimes even $1 million, to the sharpest eyes. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News of a single 1968 D penny selling at auction for nearly $1 million sent shockwaves through collector circles. Dealers who had been quietly watching the market for years suddenly realized that ordinary coins sitting in drawers, purses, and jars could hide fortunes beyond imagination. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle, a moment that would forever change how collectors view every penny minted in 1968. It's all in the details. Experts look for the tiniest differences, the shape of the D mint mark, subtle doubling on the letters, and even minute imperfections along the rim. These anomalies were the result of a brief error at the Denver Mint, a moment in history when a production mistake became a collector's goldmine. Most people overlook these coins entirely, tossing them into jars or piggy banks, unaware that the key to a life-altering discovery is right under their noses. Imagine the suspense of holding this coin for the first time, knowing that if it matches the exact characteristics, you could be holding $1 million treasure. The thrill is almost unbearable. Dealers will inspect it under magnification, checking the details that separate an ordinary penny from one that commands six-figure bids. The slightest deviation could mean the difference between a common coin and a historic treasure. Collectors were shocked when a single 1968 penny, found in a man's change drawer, went on to sell for far more than anyone anticipated. The story made headlines. Auction houses reported record-breaking bids, and suddenly, coin collecting was no longer a hobby, it was a hunt for hidden fortunes. People who had casually saved pennies realized they might have $1 million miracle lying forgotten in their drawers. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The positioning of the D, the faint doubling along Lincoln's shoulder, and the way the copper interacts with light under magnification are subtle but undeniable signs of value. These are clues only experts can fully interpret, and missing them means overlooking one of the most valuable modern coins in U.S. history. And it's not just about rarity. The story behind this coin adds to its allure. Each 1968 penny carries a legacy of misprints, minting experiments, and the silent march of history through American currency. Owning one is like holding a piece of the past in your hand, a tangible reminder that fortune often favors the observant, the patient, and the curious. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, scanning every jar, pocket, and collection for even the faintest sign of the 1968 misprint. One small auction even drew dozens of seasoned collectors who had flown across the country just to witness a single 1968 penny go under the hammer. The tension in the room was palpable. Whispers filled the air. And when the gavel finally fell, the winning bid shocked everyone, an amount that would make even the most seasoned collectors gasp. First, examine the mint mark. It's a Denver D, but not every D is equal. Look for a subtle doubling along its edge, a slight tilt that distinguishes it from the standard mint mark. Then, inspect Lincoln's shoulder and the lines around the date. Experts call it a die anomaly, almost invisible to the untrained eye, but unmistakable once seen. Common mistakes include misreading worn pennies or confusing them with ordinary circulation coins. Precision is everything. Collectors often share stories of missed opportunities, a coin tossed into a charity jar, a stack of pennies handed to a cashier. Every missed coin is a reminder of how unpredictable and dramatic this pursuit can be. And yet, for those who take the time to study, examine, and understand these details, the rewards are unparalleled. The 1968 penny is not just a coin, it's a chance, a secret waiting for discovery, a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. One man's curiosity changed his life forever. He found a penny under a couch cushion, brushed off the dust, and studied it with a magnifying glass. What he discovered stunned him. It was a rare 1968 penny, in near-perfect condition, with the exact misprint that experts seek. That single discovery earned him recognition, admiration, and a sale price that defies belief. His ordinary moment of curiosity turned into a story that will be told by collectors for decades. And the suspense doesn't end there. Each 1968 penny could carry its own unique history, a silent witness to the hands that spent it, the places it traveled, and the eyes that almost overlooked it. The thrill of the hunt, the emotional roller coaster, and the sheer improbability of finding one of these coins make it one of the most exhilarating pursuits in modern collecting. If you think you might have a 1968 penny, don't act hastily. Examine it under proper lighting, compare it to certified examples, and consult with experienced dealers. The difference between an ordinary penny and one worth over $1 million can be as small as a fraction of a millimeter. Attention to detail is the difference between regret and unimaginable fortune. But it shocked the coin world and became one of the most talked about pennies ever discovered, with whispers of it being worth over $1 million. Imagine this for a moment. You're emptying your pockets at the end of a long day. Receipts, keys, a few loose coins. Nothing special. Just ordinary pocket change. And right there, mixed in with pennies worth exactly 1 cent, sits a 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Most people wouldn't look twice. Many already have thrown one away. But what if that tiny copper coin was hiding a secret that could change your life forever? The year 1967 was chaos at the U.S. Mint. America was deep in economic stress, coins were vanishing from circulation, and people were hoarding change. To stop the panic, the Mint made a historic decision. They removed mint marks entirely. No D. No S. No identifier at all. Every coin looked ordinary. And that decision quietly opened the door to some of the most mysterious minting mistakes in U.S. history. Collectors didn't realize it at the time, but something went terribly wrong behind closed doors. Dyes were overused. Quality control slipped. Experimental metal mixtures were tested. And pennies meant to be routine were struck under conditions that should never have produced coins meant for circulation. Most were spent. Lost. Forgotten. Until decades later, when one discovery stopped collectors cold. One coin surfaced that looked slightly different. The color was off. The strike was unusually sharp. The weight didn't match expectations. At first, even experienced dealers brushed it aside. Just another 1967 penny, they thought. But then came the testing. And that's when everything changed. Metallurgical analysis revealed something no one expected. This penny did not match the standard bronze composition used in 1967. It showed signs of an experimental alloy, possibly struck on a transitional or off-metal planchet that was never meant to leave the mint. Suddenly, what looked like a 1-cent coin became a one-of-a-kind error. Word spread fast. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were calling each other late at night. Auction houses started circling. This was the kind of discovery people dream about but never expect to happen in real life, because experts believed this coin was even bigger than that. They believed it could rewrite what people thought they knew about modern pennies. When rumors surfaced that similar experimental pieces may have slipped into circulation, panic set in. People across the country started checking their change. Coffee jars. Old drawers. Childhood collections that hadn't been touched in 40 years. Another attention reset moment rocked the market when a second example was rumored to exist. Not confirmed. Not photographed. Just a whisper from an estate collection where the owner had no idea what he had. And that whisper alone sent prices skyrocketing. Because if even one more surfaced, it would confirm a hidden chapter of mint history that had been buried for decades. One collector described holding the coin in his hand and feeling sick to his stomach. Not from fear. From realization. That this tiny piece of copper, smaller than a button, could pay off a house, secure his family's future, and become the crown jewel of American numismatics. The date reads 1967. Lincoln's portrait looks familiar. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, just like millions of others. No mint mark, which everyone expects. That's exactly what makes it invisible. The genuine high-value examples show unusually sharp lettering, especially in the word Liberty and the date. The rims are strong and squared, not soft. The color may appear slightly different, sometimes more reddish or darker than normal bronze. And most importantly, the weight can be off by fractions of a gram, enough to signal an experimental or wrong planchet strike. Some examples also show subtle doubling in the lettering, not dramatic enough to scream error, but enough to make experts stop breathing for a moment. Others show die characteristics that should not exist on standard 1967 cents. And here's the painful part. Cleaning the coin destroys its value instantly. Scratching it, polishing it, even rubbing it with a cloth can erase hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential value. Common people mistakes have already cost families fortunes they'll never know they lost. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on untouched rolls from the 1960s. Old bank-wrapped pennies are suddenly gold mines. And the hunt is far from over. Every year, new collections surface. Estates. Safety deposit boxes. Coffee cans forgotten in basements. And every time, collectors hold their breath, hoping this is the one. Hoping this ordinary penny turns into $1 million miracle. But sold for nearly $1 million. And the most terrifying part? It looked exactly like an ordinary penny you might have touched 100 times without ever noticing its secret. Imagine this: a man cleaning out an old coffee can filled with loose change, dusty, forgotten, meaningless. Pennies scraped together over decades. Nothing special. Until one copper coin caught the light just right. No mint mark. A familiar date. 1944. He almost tossed it back into the pile. Almost. That single moment of hesitation changed his life forever. This was a mistake coin born during wartime chaos, when the U.S. Mint was rushing production, melting metals, changing compositions, and quietly creating one of the most valuable errors in American history. During World War II, copper was critical for ammunition and military equipment. In 1943, the mint switched pennies to steel to conserve copper. But the transition back in 1944 was messy. Blanks from the previous year were still hiding in machines, jammed in corners, overlooked by exhausted workers racing against time. And that's when it happened. A small number of 1944 pennies were struck on the wrong metal. Not copper, not steel from 1943. But something even rarer. Some were accidentally struck on leftover 1943 steel planchets. Others were struck with unusual alloy errors. And a tiny fraction of these coins were released into circulation, completely unnoticed, slipping into pocket change, cash registers, and piggy banks across America. Decades later, one of these pennies surfaced at a major auction. At first, dealers were skeptical. Everyone had heard rumors. Everyone had seen fakes. But this one passed every test. Weight, magnetism, strike detail, microscopic analysis. It was authentic. As awareness spread, collectors started checking their change with shaking hands. Old jars were reopened. Estate collections were re-examined. Dealers began whispering about private sales that never made headlines, some climbing past $1 million as competition exploded. One collector reportedly turned down an offer just under $1 million, believing the value would climb even higher. Think about that for a second. A coin with a face value of 1 cent, worth more than luxury homes, sports cars, or entire retirement funds. To the untrained eye, it looks like a normal 1944 Lincoln penny. Abraham Lincoln's portrait, wheat ears on the reverse, no mint mark beneath the date, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. Nothing screams rare. Nothing screams valuable. That's why so many were spent, lost, or destroyed. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins because they almost never come up for sale. When they do, competition is brutal. Prices skyrocket. Phone calls are made. Private jets are booked. Serious money moves fast. As prices climbed, counterfeiters flooded the market. Fake mint marks added. Steel pennies plated to look authentic. Dates altered. Entire scams built around the dream of $1 million. Collectors became paranoid. Certification standards tightened. Only the best preserved, fully authenticated coins were considered elite. And those were the ones pushing toward $1 million and beyond. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, while thousands of others unknowingly spent their fortune on a cup of coffee decades earlier. First, check the date. It must read 1944. Second, look closely under the date. No mint mark. That means Philadelphia. Third, grab a magnet. A genuine steel error 1944 penny will stick. A normal copper penny will not. Then comes the weight. Genuine error coins weigh differently than standard copper cents. Even a fraction of a gram matters. This is where professionals step in. Never clean the coin. Never polish it. Never test it harshly. One mistake can destroy hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. The headlines wrote themselves. Another 1944 no mint mark Lincoln penny had entered the spotlight, and once again, the price climbed toward $1 million. But instead, it shocked collectors and sold for nearly $1 million. A single penny. Ordinary. Brown. The kind you wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. Yet this exact Lincoln cent changed one person's life forever. and it could be hiding in your pocket right now. In 1988, millions of Lincoln pennies rolled out of the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark at all. Most people spent them on candy, parking meters, or coffee without a second thought. But buried among those everyday coins were a few terrifying mistakes, the kind that make seasoned collectors stop breathing when they spot them. Decades later, a collector sorting through loose change noticed something felt off. The coin looked normal at first glance. Same Lincoln portrait. Same date. Same familiar copper color. But under magnification, the penny began to tell a different story, one that would eventually send shockwaves through auction houses across the United States. Collectors were shocked when they realized this 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny wasn't struck the way it was supposed to be. The metal composition didn't match official mint records. The weight was wrong. The sound it made when dropped on a table was wrong. And those tiny details, the ones almost everyone ignores, were exactly what made it potentially worth up to $1 million. As words spread quietly among elite collectors, dealers began scrambling. Phone calls were made. Private offers flew around behind closed doors. Some experts refused to believe it at first. Others knew instantly they were looking at something historic. One dealer reportedly said, "If this is real, it's a once-in-a-lifetime penny." Metallurgical analysis revealed something shocking. Certain rare 1988 no-mint mark pennies were struck on the wrong planchet, leftover metal blanks that were never meant to be used that year. A silent mistake at the mint. No announcement. No recall. Just a few rare survivors slipping unnoticed into circulation. When one of these era pennies surfaced at a high-profile auction, the room went quiet. Bidding started modestly. Then someone doubled it. Then another collector jumped in. Within minutes, the price exploded. People in the room realized they weren't just bidding on a coin, they were bidding on history. On mystery. On the dream that pocket change could become $1 million. The Lincoln portrait on these rare examples often shows unusual sharpness or distortion, especially around the date and lettering. Some display weak strikes in areas that should be bold. Others show doubling so subtle it takes experience, or patience, to notice. The rim may look slightly off. The weight may be lighter or heavier than standard. These are not obvious errors. They are whispers, not screams. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle when he realized the penny he'd carried for years wasn't normal at all. He almost spent it at a gas station. Almost dropped it into a tip jar. Instead, curiosity saved his future. As grading services confirmed the authenticity, the value climbed higher and higher. The story spread, but only quietly, because the last thing serious collectors wanted was everyone checking their change. Still, rumors leaked. Forums lit up. YouTube channels exploded. Everyone asked the same question: could this really be true? Even today, experts believe some of these rare 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies are still out there. Sitting in jars. Hiding in drawers. Lost in old piggy banks. Waiting for someone with sharp eyes and steady hands to notice the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. Collectors are shocked when they learn how many of these pennies were likely destroyed without anyone ever knowing their true value. Melted. Spent. Forgotten. Every lost coin only makes the surviving examples more valuable, pushing them closer and closer to $1 million. To identify this exact coin, you must slow down. First, confirm the date is 1988, and there is no mint mark under the date. That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Next, weigh the coin precisely. Even a small difference matters. Then examine the metal color and texture. Does it look different from other pennies of the same year? Listen to the sound it makes when gently tapped. Compare it side by side with a normal 1988 cent. Most people make one fatal mistake. They assume all pennies from that year are the same. They are not. Under magnification, look closely at Lincoln's ear, the date, and the lettering in Liberty and In God We Trust. Any unusual doubling, softness, or misalignment could be the clue that changes everything. If something feels wrong, do not clean the coin. Cleaning can destroy value instantly. Instead, protect it and have it professionally evaluated. Some collectors who dismissed these pennies years ago are now realizing what they gave away. Others are racing to reclaim rolls of old change they once ignored. Because when a single penny can reach $1 million, no coin feels small anymore. But today, it's worth up to $1 million. Imagine the shock on a collector's face when a simple 1995 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny turned out to be one of the most sought-after treasures in modern U.S. coin history. What makes it so valuable? The answer is hidden in its tiny, almost invisible details. Mistakes the mint never intended, errors that today can make a casual piece of pocket change a fortune beyond imagination. The story begins in 1995, during a time when most Americans barely gave pennies a second thought. They jangled in pockets, fell under couch cushions, or vanished in piggy banks. Few knew that among the billions minted, a tiny fraction carried a secret so rare, it would one day astonish collectors across the country. This penny isn't just old copper. It's a survivor of an incredible fluke. For reasons no one fully explains, some 1995 pennies were minted without a mint mark, a tiny letter that usually tells collectors exactly where it was struck. To the untrained eye, it's just a penny. But to collectors, this missing mint mark transforms it from a simple coin into a rare artifact of the U.S. Mint's history. One man, a lifelong collector, was sorting through decades of change when he noticed something odd. The penny in his hand didn't look unusual at first, but then he spotted it, no mint mark where one should be. His heart raced. Collectors had whispered about these pennies for years, calling them ghost coins, almost mythical in their rarity. He held what might have been the crown jewel of his lifetime collection, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. He took it to a dealer, fully expecting a polite nod and a few dollars of recognition. Instead, the dealer's eyes widened. He had seen this penny before only in auction catalogs, often selling for hundreds of thousands. And this particular coin? Its condition was near perfect, the rarest combination of minting flaw and preservation. The dealer's words echoed in his mind. You could be holding $1 million coin in your hand. Collectors were shocked. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Stories spread of coins bought for a few cents decades ago now fetching life-changing sums. Auction houses lined up, bidding wars erupted, and the value skyrocketed, all for a coin that most people thought was worthless. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. The secret isn't just the missing mint mark. It's the subtle imperfections that the mint never meant to create. Tiny die cracks, faint doubling of the date, slight variations in the strike, these are the fingerprints of history. Each one tells a story, each one adds value, each one is a reason collectors will pay insane sums to own it. And yet most people will pass it by, unaware that treasure is hiding in their own drawers. This is where the suspense deepens. Not every 1995 penny without a mint mark is worth millions. Many are common, many are damaged, many are almost invisible to the casual eye. The true $1 million coins have a flawless copper luster, crisp edges, and a rare combination of tiny anomalies only a trained eye can detect. One slight scratch, one off-center strike, one tiny blemish, and the value drops dramatically. This is why expertise matters, why a careful inspection can turn ordinary change into unimaginable wealth. Imagine the auction room. The coin is placed under a magnifying glass. Every collector leans in, hearts pounding. The bidding begins at 6 figures, then jumps, then skyrockets. Each bid raises gasps. Cameras flash. Reporters scribble notes. And the final hammer falls. Millions of dollars for a coin that could have been lost under a sofa cushion. It's a modern legend, a fairy tale for collectors, a real-life treasure story that inspires anyone who's ever glanced at spare change. The answer is in the details. First, look at the date, crisp, clean, perfectly struck. Second, check the area where the mint mark should be, completely blank, unbroken. Third, examine the copper surface. Uncirculated or near perfect condition is critical. And finally, observe any tiny die marks, subtle cracks, or anomalies that tell the story of its unique creation. Collectors call these the hidden signatures of the mint's rarest coins. Miss them, and you might overlook a fortune. Sometimes, these coins show up in the most ordinary places. A drawer at grandma's house, a jar of coins in a child's room, a forgotten tip left on a counter. One simple glance, 1 second of curiosity, and suddenly, you could be holding $1 million legacy in your hand. The drama doesn't stop with discovery. Once identified, these coins must be verified by professionals. Grading is critical. A certified grading from a top agency can push the value from hundreds of thousands to over $1 million. Collectors wait years for coins like this to appear, making every authentic piece a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Imagine being the person who finds this coin. Your heart racing, the weight of history in your palm, the knowledge that you hold what many can only dream about. Dealers call, auctions scramble to include it, collectors circle like hawks. It's not just a coin, it's a ticket to a story no one else will ever experience the same way. Every step of this journey is filled with suspense. From a simple pocket change to an astonishing discovery, the 1995 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has captivated collectors worldwide. The intrigue lies not just in the value, but in the mystery. Why was it struck this way? How many exist? Who will be the next to find one? And the answer, the next collector who notices the subtle detail, could be you. Start with your 1995 pennies. Check every one for a missing mint mark. Look for coins that have sharp detail, bright copper, and no major scratches. Use a magnifying glass or a loupe to study the date and surrounding area. Compare it to standard pennies from that year. If it seems off, seek a professional opinion. Don't rush. Don't assume. Patience is part of the thrill, and always remember, most people miss the million-dollar details. They discard treasure, they overlook magic hiding in plain sight. But those who look carefully, who study, who recognize the anomalies, they are the ones who turn ordinary pennies into extraordinary fortunes. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. A piece of history, a rare minting fluke, a treasure waiting to be discovered. Will it be your lucky day? Will your casual curiosity transform into unimaginable wealth? The answer could be hidden in your pocket change, waiting for the right eye to see it. But today, it's valued at over $1 million. Imagine holding a coin so unassuming that most people wouldn't give it a second glance. A tiny, copper Lincoln penny minted in 1944. But behind its ordinary face lies a story that has shocked collectors, stunned dealers, and rewritten the rules of coin collecting. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the secrets of this coin are more unbelievable than you could ever imagine. Most people assume that pennies from the 1940s are just relics of history, old currency meant for the cash register. But the 1944 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is different. Only a few of these coins exist, and what makes it extraordinary is a minting mistake almost nobody expected. During World War II, copper was scarce, and the U.S. Mint switched to steel for pennies in 1943. The following year, when copper returned, a small batch of coins was accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets. The result? A coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but the slightest metallic shimmer tells an incredible story. Collectors were shocked when the first of these pennies hit the market. In one legendary auction, a single 1944 no-mint Mark penny sold for nearly $1 million. Dealers had scrambled, experts were astonished, and the coin world was buzzing with disbelief. How could a single penny, almost identical to the ones in circulation, suddenly be worth this much? The answer lies in its rarity and its hidden details. Details so subtle that the untrained eye could miss them entirely. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In a quiet town in the Midwest, a retired teacher emptied his old jar of coins from the 1940s, never imagining the fortune hidden inside. Among loose change and faded pennies, he found one that looked ordinary. But the moment an experienced collector examined it, jaws dropped. That penny was the elusive 1944 no-mint Mark coin, instantly worth millions. One man's forgotten pocket change had just rewritten his life story. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On close inspection, you'll notice the edges, the shine, the faint copper tone that seems almost impossible for a 1944 penny. It's subtle. It's hidden in plain sight. But collectors know this is a coin that carries history, error, and incredible value all in one. The slightest imperfection, a trace of steel beneath copper, a misalignment in the striking, can be the difference between a regular penny and $1 million treasure. Imagine being the person who discovers this coin in a drawer at home. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any potential finds, auction houses are gearing up, and the market reacts as if every coin is a gold rush. And yet, the coin isn't flashy or obvious. Its power lies in its history, its rarity, and the shock it delivers to anyone who realizes what they're holding. Every glance at this penny is a glimpse into the unexpected fortunes hiding in everyday life. One of the most astonishing stories involves a private collector who kept a single 1944 no-mint mark penny tucked away for decades. When he finally decided to sell, the auction room fell silent. Bidders fought feverishly, and the final hammer came down at a figure no one believed, over $1 million. It's the kind of story that fuels dreams, the kind of discovery that turns ordinary people into legends in the coin world. But how can you tell if your own 1944 penny could be this treasure? Start with the basics. The coin will have no mint mark beneath the date. Examine the metal carefully. It may have a subtle difference from standard copper pennies. Look for a slight sheen, an almost ghostly reflection, and edges that are sharper than usual. Tiny anomalies in the striking, small irregularities in the design, these are the markers of value. And beware of counterfeits or common mistakes. Only experts can verify the authenticity of $1 million coin. Collectors should pay attention to the smallest details, the depth of Lincoln's bust, the spacing of letters, and the feel of the coin in your hand. Genuine 1944 no-mint mark pennies have a certain weight, a unique tone, and an unmistakable aura that seasoned collectors describe as electric. It's the kind of coin that commands attention, even in a jar of thousands of ordinary pennies. One more thing that adds to its legend: very few of these coins survived in pristine condition. Time, circulation, and human hands have worn down almost all examples. That's why when one appears on the market, the reaction is intense. Dealers and collectors know it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The rarity drives the price up, often into the millions. And history shows us that these coins don't just sit in drawers forever. They're found, they're recognized, and they change lives. So picture yourself going through a dusty box of old coins. You pull out a 1944 penny, and something catches your eye. Could it be? You check again, and suddenly, you realize this isn't just another coin. This is the one that could redefine your future. The one that collectors dream about. The one that's been hiding in plain sight for decades, waiting for someone to uncover it. But instead, it sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding an ordinary penny in your hand, the kind you'd usually toss into a jar or forget in a drawer. Now imagine that same coin secretly hiding a fortune worth over $1 million. That's exactly what happened with the 1952 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that stunned collectors across the United States and turned ordinary pocket change into life-changing wealth. Back in 1952, the U.S. Mint was cranking out millions of pennies every day, most indistinguishable from each other. But a handful of these coins were minted differently: small errors, subtle flaws, or unintentional skips in the striking process. These tiny differences would go unnoticed for decades, until one collector's curiosity changed everything. Dealers were shocked, auction houses were on alert, and the coin world was buzzing with whispers of a hidden treasure. Collectors have spent years studying the Lincoln penny, searching for the exact details that separate a regular coin from $1 million miracle. It's not flashy. You won't find gold or diamonds. Instead, the secret lies in its minting, in the imperceptible marks, in the precise alignment of letters and numbers. One slight misalignment, one missing mint mark, and suddenly, a coin that seemed worthless becomes a collector's obsession. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A retired teacher, sorting through decades of old coins in his attic, discovered a 1952 penny that didn't belong. He'd been collecting change casually for years, never imagining that one ordinary copper disc could transform his life. The coin looked like any other Lincoln penny at first glance, but the missing mint mark was the key. What he held in his hand wasn't just history, it was a ticket to over $1 million. Dealers rushed to verify its authenticity. Experts examined every curve, every dent, every reflection in the copper. The tiniest detail became the difference between a coin worth a few cents and a coin that could set records at auction. And as news spread, collectors across the nation began checking their drawers, their jars of loose change, their forgotten boxes in basements. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and suddenly, everyone was asking the same question: could this be in my possession too? The story doesn't end there. Auctions of 1952 no-mint mark pennies became headline news. Coins that once seemed ordinary were selling for staggering amounts. Collectors were shocked as records were broken, pennies from ordinary circulation reaching values that most people would never even dream of. It was a reminder that history sometimes hides its most valuable treasures in plain sight, waiting for someone curious, someone patient, someone observant enough to notice. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The absence of the mint mark isn't always obvious to the untrained eye. A regular penny from 1952 carries either a small D or S mint mark, indicating Denver or San Francisco. But this no mint mark variant is far rarer, a subtle anomaly that turns ordinary metal into priceless history. Even experienced collectors can overlook it, which makes every discovery feel like a lightning strike of luck and skill combined. But there's more. Some of these coins also carry minting errors, doubled dies, faint letters, or slight off-center strikes, each adding layers of rarity and value. Imagine holding a coin that carries not only a missing mint mark but also a subtle flaw only experts can detect. That's what pushes its worth into the seven-figure range. Auctioneers have reported bidding wars lasting hours, with collectors willing to pay millions just for the chance to own a piece of history that few will ever see. One of the most shocking discoveries involved a coin that had been stored in a family Bible for decades. No one touched it, no one checked it, until a grandson decided to catalog the old coins. What was once considered sentimental clutter turned into a life-changing fortune overnight. The emotional weight of the discovery matched the monetary value. For one family, a simple penny represented dreams realized, debts cleared, and a legacy preserved. Collectors were stunned by the stories that followed. From coins found under couch cushions to pennies forgotten in jars of change, each discovery reignited the mythos surrounding the 1952 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Auction houses reported phone lines jammed with inquiries. Dealers couldn't keep up with the demand. The coin world had discovered a hidden gold mine, and everyone wanted a piece. And now, you can learn exactly how to spot this coin yourself. First, look closely at the area beneath the date. A normal 1952 penny will show a faint D or S if minted in Denver or San Francisco. If there is no mint mark at all, that's your first sign of rarity. Next, examine the lettering, the alignment, and the edges. Look for subtle imperfections, tiny strikes that don't align perfectly, and signs of doubled dies. These are the traits that transform a coin from ordinary to extraordinary. But beware, there are fakes. Some pennies have been altered to remove mint marks or artificially aged to mimic 1952 circulation. That's why verification from a professional coin grading service is critical. Authenticity is the key that unlocks millions. Without it, even the rarest penny is just metal. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The 1952 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin, it's a story, a miracle, a reminder that hidden treasures can appear when you least expect them. Every glance at a coin jar, every handful of loose change, could be a brush with history, a chance to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. This coin almost ended up in the trash, tossed aside like spare change, forgotten, ignored, until one shocking moment revealed it was worth over $1 million. And the most terrifying part? It looked just like any other penny you've probably held 1,000 times before. Imagine this. A small, dull brown Lincoln penny from 1941. No mint mark. No shine. No obvious clue. Just another coin rattling around in a drawer, until one collector noticed something that made his hands start to shake. What he discovered turned an ordinary afternoon into a life-altering moment, and it stunned the entire coin world. The year was 1941. America was on the edge of war. Factories were preparing for chaos, metal supplies were being monitored, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure like never before. Millions of pennies were struck quickly, efficiently, and often imperfectly. And in that rush, history made a mistake, one that collectors would chase for decades. At first glance, the 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln penny seems common. After all, it was struck in Philadelphia, where pennies traditionally carry no mint mark. Millions were produced. Most are worth just a few cents today. But hidden among them are rare survivors with microscopic errors, strange characteristics, and near-perfect conditions that should never have existed. One collector, sorting through inherited pocket change, nearly skipped past a worn 1941 penny. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't dramatic. But something felt off. The color was slightly different. The strike looked unusually sharp. And when he weighed it, his heart nearly stopped. Experts confirmed the coin showed an ultra-rare minting anomaly tied to transitional metal preparation just before wartime changes. Combine that with an almost flawless strike, razor-sharp details on Lincoln's portrait, and virtually untouched wheat ears on the reverse, and suddenly this ordinary penny became a unicorn. When it hit the auction block, seasoned collectors leaned forward. Dealers whispered. Phones lit up. Bidding exploded. And when the hammer finally dropped, the price crossed $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Some were angry. Others were inspired. Because that sale proved something terrifying and hopeful at the same time. The next $1 million penny might not be locked in a vault. It might be sitting in someone's junk drawer. There are more 1941 no-mint mark pennies out there with similar potential, but only if you know exactly what to look for. And this is where most people fail. They glance. They assume. They spend it. First, condition is everything. A true high-value 1941 penny must show exceptionally strong detail. Lincoln's jawline should be sharp. His hairlines distinct. The wheat stalks on the back should look bold, not flat. Weak strikes kill value instantly. Next comes the surface. The most valuable examples have original luster, even if faint. No harsh cleaning. No scratches. No artificial shine. One wrong wipe decades ago can erase hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. Then comes the weight and composition. Subtle variations caused by wartime preparation errors created coins that don't quite match the standard. Most people never think to weigh a penny, but that single step has changed lives. Off metal strikes. Die cracks. Doubled details so subtle you need magnification to see them. One collector famously said the difference between a 10-cent penny and a $1 million penny is thinner than a human hair. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on verified examples. Auction houses quietly hunt them. Private collectors guard their finds like family secrets. Because every time a new one appears, it sends a jolt through the market. Millions of Americans still have old pennies. Coffee cans. Drawers. Shoe boxes. Collections inherited and forgotten. And most people have no idea what they're holding. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Not because he was rich, not because he was lucky, but because he looked closer. Never clean a 1941 penny. Ever. Don't polish it. Don't rub it. Don't test it with chemicals. Cleaning destroys value instantly. If you think you have something special, stop touching it. Use a scale. Use magnification. Compare details carefully. Look for unusual sharpness, strange texture, or anything that feels too perfect for a coin that old, and most importantly, get it authenticated. Real $1 million coins are verified, graded, and sealed. Guessing is how treasures disappear forever. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the entire coin world and sold for nearly $1 million. A single penny. Faded, ordinary, and overlooked for decades. And yet, this exact kind of coin has been valued at up to $1.2 million. Today, we're revealing the secret story of the 1948 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, A coin that proves miracles can hide in plain sight. Picture this for a moment. It's just after World War II. America is rebuilding, factories are roaring back to life, and the US Mint is under pressure to produce massive numbers of coins as the economy surges. Pennies are being struck day and night, machines running non-stop, human hands tired, mistakes quietly slipping through. No one at the time imagined that one of these pennies would one day be worth $1 million. The 1948 Lincoln penny without a mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, where no mint mark was used at all. Millions were produced, passed from hand to hand, spent on candy, newspapers, and bus fares. For decades, collectors ignored them. Dealers barely glanced at them. To most people, it was just another brown penny. Sometime years later, a sharp-eyed collector noticed something strange. The coin didn't look quite right. The color seemed off. The details felt sharper than expected. And when it was weighed, measured, and magnified, the truth slowly began to emerge. This wasn't an ordinary 1948 penny. It was something else entirely. During the late 1940s, the U.S. Mint was transitioning metals and cleaning up after wartime production. Steel scents from 1943, copper alloys, experimental planchets, all of it passed through the same facilities. Occasionally, the wrong metal slipped into the presses. A leftover planchet from a different year. A wrong alloy that should never have been used again. One tiny mistake, one moment of human error, and history was born. Collectors were shocked when rumors spread of rare 1948 pennies struck on incorrect metal planchets. Coins that looked like normal copper cents at first glance, but under expert testing revealed something extraordinary. These errors were never supposed to exist. They weren't documented. They weren't caught. They quietly escaped into circulation. An example surfaced in near-perfect condition. The surfaces were smooth. The strike was crisp. And the weight was wrong. Just slightly off, but enough to change everything. When professional graders confirmed it, the reaction was electric. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Collectors fought behind closed doors. And when it finally appeared at auction, the room went silent. Numbers climbed higher and higher until the final price landed near $1 million. A penny that once bought nothing more than a piece of gum now stood as a symbol of fate, patience, and hidden treasure. The most valuable 1948 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies are not shiny proofs or common circulated coins. They are extremely specific error strikes or ultra-high-grade specimens that survived untouched for decades. Some display unusual metal compositions. Others show razor-sharp details so pristine that grading services award them top-tier mint state ratings. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything, and perfection is priceless. Collectors were shocked to learn that even a normal-looking 1948 penny, if preserved in exceptional condition, could command staggering prices. Pennies that never saw circulation. Pennies stored away in jars, albums, or forgotten drawers. Pennies that outlived generations without anyone realizing their true value. A second example surfaced. Then whispers of a third. Each one fueling the belief that life-changing treasure could still be hiding among everyday coins. Suddenly, people across America began checking their change again. Old piggy banks were opened. Coin rolls were searched. And stories poured in of near misses and heartbreaking discoveries. The Lincoln cent is one of the most beloved coins in U.S. history. Featuring Abraham Lincoln, it carries emotional weight, national pride, and generational nostalgia. And the 1948 issue sits at a crossroads of history, post-war America, industrial transition, and minting chaos. That combination makes it irresistible to serious collectors. They assume value comes from age alone. They think any old penny must be worth money. And because of that mistake, priceless coins are still being spent, lost, or thrown away. First, check the date. It must read 1948. Then look directly below the date. If there is no mint mark, no D, no S, that means it was struck in Philadelphia. That alone doesn't make it worth $1 million, but it opens the door. Next, examine the condition. Is Lincoln's face sharp? Can you see fine lines in his hair and coat? Are the wheat stalks on the reverse crisp and detailed? Heavyware dramatically lowers value, while pristine surfaces send prices soaring. Now comes the step most people skip: weight and metal. Rare error examples may weigh slightly different than a normal copper cent. If a 1948 penny looks unusual in color, feels different, or reacts oddly to a magnet, stop immediately. That coin deserves professional evaluation, and here's a critical warning. Cleaning the coin can destroy its value instantly. Even wiping it with a cloth can turn a potential $1 million into pocket change. Leave it exactly as you found it. Collectors were shocked when they realized how many opportunities were lost because of simple mistakes. Professional grading is the final key. Only certified examples with documented errors or elite condition achieve jaw-dropping prices. Without that verification, the world will never know what you truly found. But sold for nearly $1 million. A single penny. Dull brown. Barely noticed. The kind you'd flick onto a counter without a second thought. And yet, one version of the 1962 D Lincoln penny has turned ordinary lives upside down, leaving seasoned collectors speechless and auction rooms frozen in disbelief. Imagine this: a man cleaning out an old jar of loose change. Decades of pennies mixed together. No gold. No silver. Nothing special at first glance. Then one coin catches the light just slightly differently. He almost ignores it. Almost. That moment of hesitation changed everything, because the 1962 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny is not just another old coin. It was born during a turning point in American history, when the U.S. Mint was under pressure, production was rushed, and tiny mistakes slipped through that were never supposed to exist. And those mistakes are where legends are born. Collectors still talk about the first time one of these rare examples surfaced. Dealers were shocked. Experts argued. Some refused to believe it was real. But then the magnification came out. The scales came out. The silence fell over the room. This was no ordinary penny. This was a coin that should not exist, and yet there it was. The 1962 D penny was struck in Denver, a mint known for precision. That's exactly why the rare errors from this year are so explosive in value. When Denver makes a mistake, it means something went seriously wrong behind closed doors. And collectors know it. One of the most valuable versions is tied to a dramatic minting anomaly, a combination of strike irregularities and planchet issues that most people miss completely. To the untrained eye, it looks like wear. To a professional, it looks like Destiny. At1 private auction, a certified example quietly crossed the block. No hype. No flashing headlines. Then the bidding started climbing. 50,000. 100,000. 200,000. People stopped breathing. When the hammer finally dropped, the price was close to $1 million, and the room erupted. A penny that once bought nothing had become everything. Collectors were shocked because this wasn't some ancient rarity locked away in a museum. This was pocket change. Pennies that millions of Americans handled in the 1960s. Pennies that sat in coffee cans, glove compartments, and dresser drawers for generations. During 1962, the mint was still using 95% copper planchets. But errors happened. Some blanks were improperly prepared. Some were struck under unusual pressure. Some displayed doubling so subtle that it hides until the light hits it just right. And when a Denver minted coin shows these traits in near-perfect condition, collectors lose their minds. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, not because it's old, but because it's dangerous. Dangerous to ignore. Dangerous to underestimate. Dangerous because the supply is microscopic, and the demand is relentless. One legendary collector told the story of passing on a 1962 D penny years earlier because it looked too normal. That same coin resurfaced later, slabbed and certified, valued deep into six figures. He still calls it the biggest mistake of his career. Another example surfaced from an estate sale. No fanfare. Just a small box of coins inherited from a relative who worked blue-collar jobs his entire life. Inside was a 1962 D penny with razor-sharp details, blazing luster, and an unmistakable strike anomaly. When it was authenticated, the valuation crept higher and higher, until it approached $1.3 million. And here's why this coin hits people so deeply. It represents hope. The idea that life-changing wealth doesn't always come from luck or privilege, but from paying attention. From looking twice. From not throwing away history. Collectors were stunned not just by the price, but by how close this coin came to being lost forever. A few scratches. A few years of circulation. One careless moment. That's all it would have taken for this treasure to vanish. Every year, rolls are searched. Collections are re-examined. Old jars are opened. And every time someone finds a 1962 D-penny, the heart rate jumps just a little. Because the question isn't, is this old? The question is this the one? When population reports were updated, experts realized just how few top-grade, era-linked 1962 D-pennies actually exist. Fewer than anyone expected. That scarcity is like gasoline on a fire. Prices surge. Competition explodes. And suddenly, a coin once ignored becomes one of the most hunted pennies in America. Auction houses quietly hope one will walk through their doors. Dealers dream of spotting one raw, before the rest of the market catches on. And everyday people? They're checking their change with shaking hands. First, look at the date. 1962. Then check for the D mint mark beneath the date. That tiny letter is everything. No D, no dream. But the mint mark alone isn't enough. You need to examine the strike. Is Lincoln's portrait sharp, with strong details in the hair and beard? Weak strikes are common. Strong strikes are rare. Rare strikes get attention. Next, study the surfaces. Original luster matters. Damage kills value. Cleaning destroys dreams. One wrong white can turn $1 million penny into a face value coin. That mistake has happened more times than anyone wants to admit. Then comes the hardest part. Look for anomalies. Subtle doubling in the lettering. Unusual texture in the fields. Weight that feels just slightly off. These are not obvious errors. They whisper. And only those who listen hear them. If you ever suspect you've found something special, stop. Do nothing. Don't clean it. Don't spend it. Don't show it to just anyone. The wrong advice can cost you a fortune. Professional authentication is the only path forward. Collectors were shocked when they learned how many rare coins were ruined by good intentions. But sold for nearly $1 million. A single penny. Brown, ordinary, forgotten? The kind you wouldn't even bother bending down to pick up. And yet, in one unbelievable moment, this exact type of coin shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and proved that life-changing treasure can hide in plain sight. Imagine this. A man cleaning out an old drawer. Decades of dust. Rusted paper clips. Receipts that meant nothing anymore. Then a handful of pennies spill onto the table. Most were common. Worth exactly 1 cent. But one coin looked just a little different. No mint mark. A 1951 Lincoln penny. He almost tossed it back into the pile. Almost. The year was 1951. America was still healing from war. The U.S. Mint was producing millions of pennies, most of them routine, unremarkable, and destined for circulation. But behind the scenes, something unusual was happening. Errors. Die issues. Planchet problems. Tiny mistakes that slipped past quality control and disappeared into circulation, unnoticed for decades. Most people assume valuable pennies come from the early 1900s. The famous 1909 SVDB. The wartime steel cents. But 1951? That's where collectors stop paying attention. That's exactly why this penny is so dangerous to ignore. Because hidden among ordinary 1951 no-mint mark pennies are rare error strikes and ultra-high-grade survivors that collectors would pay $1 million to own. Collectors were shocked when one such penny surfaced in nearly perfect condition. No mint mark beneath the date, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. But that alone wasn't the miracle. It was the details. The razor-sharp strike. The flawless surfaces. The deep, original color untouched by circulation. A condition so rare that experts questioned if it could even exist. Under close inspection, Specialists noticed abnormalities so subtle that 99% of people would miss them forever. Die doubling so faint it looked like a shadow. Microscopic alignment issues. Metal flow lines that told a story of a stressed die at the end of its life. This wasn't just a penny. It was a frozen moment in minting history. When this coin went to auction, the room went silent. Bidding opened conservatively. Then one paddle went up. Then another. Then another. Prices jumped in seconds. Collectors leaned forward. Dealers whispered. Phones lit up. Because everyone in that room understood the same terrifying truth. This wasn't gold. This wasn't silver. This was a penny. And yet the price soared. Past 6 figures. Past what most people earn in a lifetime. Until finally it crossed into $1 million territory. That coin wasn't found in a vault. It wasn't preserved by a museum. It wasn't protected by anyone who knew what it was. It survived by accident. By luck. By being ignored. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins now. Auction houses are quietly hunting them. Grading services are seeing a spike in 1951 submissions. Because once the story broke, the hunt began. Most 1951 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies look worthless. Worn. Brown. Spent. And that's exactly why people make the biggest mistake of all. They assume rarity is obvious. The most valuable examples come from condition and errors. Pennies that somehow escaped circulation. Pennies with untouched detail in Lincoln's hair, beard, and coat. Pennies where the wheat ears on the reverse look sharp enough to cut paper. Pennies with strange doubling on the date, or lettering. Pennies struck on the wrong planchet, or with metal flaws that shouldn't exist. The absence of a mint mark means Philadelphia. But you must look closer. Much closer. Check the date for doubling. Look at the word Liberty for shadows or thickness. Examine the rims for weakness or spreading. Weigh the coin precisely. Even a fraction of a gram can reveal something extraordinary. Collectors were shocked to learn how many people unknowingly clean these coins, destroying their value instantly. A single wipe can erase hundreds of thousands of dollars. A single polish can turn $1 million dream into pocket change. Because the right 1951 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, with the right error or the right grade, is not just rare. It's legendary. They were made in massive numbers. They circulated across the country. They passed through gas stations, grocery stores, and school cafeterias. Some were saved in jars. Some were hidden in drawers. Some are sitting right now in old coffee cans, inherited and forgotten. So before you dismiss that old penny, before you dump loose change into a machine, slow down. Look again. Hold it to the light. Because history doesn't announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer. But instead, it shocked the entire coin world and sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine that moment. A single penny, dull brown, ordinary at first glance, sitting quietly among loose change, hiding a secret so powerful it would change one life forever. And the scariest part? This exact penny could have been yours. In 1964, America was changing fast. The country was grieving, the economy was shifting, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure like never before. Pennies were being struck by the millions, rushed through production, inspected quickly, and sent out into circulation. Most people spent them without a second thought. But during that chaotic year, something went terribly wrong behind the scenes, and collectors are still hunting the evidence today. One ordinary man found his while cleaning out an old jar of pocket change. Nothing special, just years of coins tossed aside after gas station stops and grocery runs. But one penny caught his eye. No mint mark. A strange weight. A look that felt different. He almost ignored it. Almost spent it. And that single hesitation would turn into a life-changing decision. Collectors were stunned when experts examined it. Dealers leaned in closer. Auction houses went silent. This tiny copper coin carried whispers of a minting error so rare, so controversial, that many believed it should not exist at all. And yet, there it was. Real. Authentic. And priceless. During the early 1960s, the U.S. Mint was experimenting quietly with new metal compositions. Rising copper prices were causing panic, and trial planchets were being tested behind closed doors. These experimental blanks were never meant to leave the mint. They were supposed to be destroyed, melted down, forgotten forever. But mistakes happen, especially when millions of coins are flying through machines at lightning speed. Somehow, a small number of experimental pennies were struck with the 1964 design and slipped into circulation. No announcement. No records made public. Just silent survivors hiding among billions of ordinary cents. Most were spent. Lost. Destroyed by time. But a handful survived, and those survivors are now worth a fortune measured in $1 million. One collector recalled the moment he realized what he was holding. His hands shook. His heart raced. He had seen thousands of pennies before, but never one like this. The weight was wrong. The sound when dropped on a table was wrong. And under magnification, the surfaces told a story that no normal penny could. The absence of a mint mark is critical. In 1964, pennies without a mint mark were struck in Philadelphia. That alone is not rare. Millions were made. But paired with the wrong metal composition, the wrong weight, and the wrong magnetic response, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly. When this coin finally reached auction, seasoned collectors were ready. Bidding escalated in seconds. Phone lines lit up. Private buyers entered the war. Each bid pushed the price higher, driven by one terrifying truth: there may never be another chance like this again. When the hammer fell, the room was silent. A penny that once bought nothing had just crossed into $1 million territory. Dealers are now rushing to get their hands on 1964 pennies. Collections are being rechecked. Old coffee cans are being opened. Estate sales are being watched closely. Because everyone knows the odds are slim, but not zero. And when a discovery means $1 million, slim odds suddenly feel worth chasing. Counterfeits flooded the market. Fake weights. Altered dates. Modified surfaces. Unsuspecting people lost money chasing the dream. That's why knowing exactly what to look for matters more than ever. One wrong assumption can cost you thousands. One correct detail can make you rich. So let's slow down. If you have a 1964 no mint mark Lincoln penny, here is how the real miracle reveals itself. First, the weight. A standard 1964 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. The ultra-rare experimental versions may weigh significantly less or more, depending on the test metal used. Even a small difference can be the difference between ordinary change and $1 million treasure. Next, magnetism. A normal copper penny will not react to a magnet. Some experimental planchets will show faint magnetic properties. It's subtle. Easy to miss. And that's exactly why so many were spent without notice. Then comes the surface and strike. Under magnification, genuine era coins often show unusual texture, weak details in strange places, or surfaces that look slightly off compared to standard copper cents. Experts describe it as a feeling before a fact. Something your eyes can't unsee once you notice it. One man dismissed his penny as fake and nearly sold it for face value. Only after a second opinion did the truth emerge. The coin was authenticated, slabbed, and certified. Its estimated value climbed overnight. Suddenly, a penny that sat ignored for decades became the centerpiece of a collection worth $1 million. Stories like this fuel the obsession. They remind us that history doesn't always sit in museums. Sometimes it sits in drawers. Sometimes it jingles in your pocket. Sometimes it waits patiently, hoping someone finally looks closely enough. Collectors were shocked not just by the price, but by the possibility. If one survived, maybe others did too. That thought alone keeps people searching late into the night, flipping coins under desk lamps, chasing the same miracle. These coins are not obvious. They don't scream value. They whisper it. They rely on curiosity, patience, and a willingness to question the ordinary. That's why so many $1 million coins are found by regular people, not experts. But sold for nearly $1 million. Picture this for a moment. A handful of loose change, tossed onto a kitchen table after a long day. Nothing special. Just ordinary pennies. One of them dated 1997, stamped with a small D mint mark from Denver. Most people wouldn't even look twice. But this exact kind of penny would later send shockwaves through the coin world and ignite dreams of $1 million hidden in plain sight. At first glance, the 1997 D Lincoln penny looks painfully ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar face. That warm copper tone. The kind of coin you've spent hundreds of times without a second thought. But deep inside this year and mint mark lies a mystery that collectors still talk about in hushed, excited voices. Because what if I told you, one version of this penny doesn't belong in your pocket at all? It belongs in a vault. Or an auction room packed with breathless bidders. Or a collector's safe, guarded like a crown jewel. In the late 1990s, the US Mint was producing billions of pennies at lightning speed. Machines ran nonstop. Dies wore down. Planchets mixed. And in that chaos, mistakes slipped through. Most errors were caught and destroyed. But a tiny number escaped. And those escapees would become legends. One collector tells a story that still feels unreal. He wasn't hunting for treasure. He wasn't rich. He wasn't even a serious collector yet. He was sorting through rolls of pennies from a local bank, late at night, more out of boredom than hope. Then he noticed something strange about a 1997 D penny. The surface looked wrong. The details didn't match what he expected. Some 1997 D pennies were struck on the wrong planchet. Others showed dramatic die errors, doubled elements, or experimental metal compositions that were never meant for circulation. In extremely rare cases, pennies from this era were struck on bronze planchets instead of the standard copper-plated zinc. That difference is invisible to the naked eye unless you know exactly what to look for. When one verified 1997 D-era penny crossed the block, the room went silent. Bidding started high. Then higher. Then insane. Phones lit up. Dealers locked eyes. No one wanted to be the person who hesitated on a coin that could define their entire career. And that sale did something dangerous. It made people realize the unthinkable. That the next $1 million coin might not be locked away in a museum. It might be sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten roll from the bank, not many. Just enough to confirm the nightmare and the dream at the same time. These weren't one-offs. They were real. And they were still out there. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin now. Not because every 1997 D penny is valuable, but because the right one is explosive. The kind of coin that can turn a normal person into a headline overnight. Because if you're watching this, there's a reason. You've held pennies. You've ignored them. You've probably tossed a 1997 D into a tip jar or a cup holder without thinking. And that's exactly how these coins survive. Hidden in plain sight, passed over by people who don't know their secret. To identify a potentially valuable 1997 D Lincoln penny, the first thing to check is the mint mark. Look just below the date. That small D matters. Then weigh the coin. A standard 1997 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If it's closer to 3.1 grams, your heart should start racing. Next, examine the surface closely. Look for doubling in the lettering, especially in Liberty and I In God We Trust. Look for unusual textures, ghosting, or signs the coin was struck more than once. Check the edges. Check the color. Trust your instincts when something feels off. But here's the mistake most people make. They clean the coin. They polish it. They destroy the very evidence that makes it valuable. Never clean a potential error coin. That single mistake has cost people literal $1 million. Authentication is everything. A coin like this must be professionally graded and verified. That's where legends are confirmed, or dreams are crushed. But when it's real, when the experts nod and the paperwork comes back, the feeling is indescribable. You're no longer holding a penny. You're holding proof that miracles still happen. That history makes mistakes. And that those mistakes can be worth more than houses, cars,